Israeli strikes across Lebanon killed at least 27 people on Wednesday as the IDF ramps up attacks in the country.
Former One Direction member Liam Payne was found dead after he fell from a balcony in Argentina.
Italian Minister Matteo Salvini is on trial for refusing to let rescued migrants disembark in Italy in 2019. Israeli strikes across Lebanon killed at least 27 people on Wednesday, according to Lebanon's health ministry. In the southern city of Nabatea, at least 16 people were killed, including the city's mayor. Lebanon's caretaker prime minister accused Israel of intentionally targeting a municipal council meeting there to discuss relief efforts. Israel has ramped up its attacks on the country amid growing international criticism that it is targeting UN peacekeepers in the region. UNIFIL again said that Israel deliberately targeted its positions in an attack on its watchtower. Meanwhile, the humanitarian situation in northern Gaza remains dire as Israel's siege of the Jabalia refugee camp enters its 13th day. The top UN humanitarian official is accusing Israel of blocking the delivery of desperately needed aid to Gaza, saying there's barely any food left in the north.
During the first 2 weeks of October, just 1 out of 54 coordinated movements to the north via the Al-Rashid checkpoint was facilitated by Israeli authorities, while another 4 were impeded but eventually accomplished.
Following warnings from the U.S., Israel let in a limited amount of aid on Wednesday, but the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations called the progress insufficient.
Former One Direction member Liam Payne was found dead after he fell from a balcony in Argentina. Fans were quick to gather outside of the hotel in Buenos Aires to hold an impromptu vigil.
Destrozada completamente. Todo esto es parte de mi infancia para mí. Yo crecí con esto, yo crecí con su música, yo crecí con la banda.
Police rushed to the hotel on Wednesday evening after receiving a phone call from the hotel manager. He warned them of a guest who may have been under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Payne had previously been vocal about his battle with alcoholism and posted a video in July last year saying he had been sober for 6 months after receiving treatment. The 31-year-old was one of the 5 members of One Direction who formed during the British singing competition The X Factor in 2010 after they had all auditioned individually. The band rose to fame and became one of the most iconic boy bands of their era before disbanding in 2016.
NATO's chief has remained non-committal about Ukraine joining the alliance despite Zelensky's newly announced victory plan hinging on becoming a member before the war ends. Ukrainian President Zelensky said his victory plan could bring peace to the country by next year, but the first in his 5-point plan might be the one most likely to make Western allies balk. New NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte was non-committal about Ukraine's membership.
We are in close contact with allies, with Ukraine, to see how we can take next steps, how to do that in a way which is also successful, which is fruitful, etc. Obviously, these are talks I cannot give you all the insights about. That's impossible in a press conference like this. But the victory plan, of course, we very much are debating with them.
Thank you, Belarusian independence.
NATO's collective security guarantee is a political commitment by all member countries to come to the aid of any member that might be under attack. Many in the alliance refuse to allow Ukraine in while fighting continues for fear of being dragged into a wider war with Russia.
There is still a long way to go before the final sentence, but this week's hearing will be crucial in the open arms trial involving League leader Matteo Salvini. After Italian prosecutors requested a 6-year prison sentence, his lawyer Giulia Bongiorno will present her closing argument, explaining why the former interior minister is innocent. A few days ago, Patriots for Europe's far-right leaders rallied in support of Salvini in Pontida. His supporters have collected signatures in his defense, and a group of League Party members plans to take to the streets in Palermo on Friday to show their support. We spoke to one of them.
Abbiamo deciso di accompagnarlo perché riteniamo che il processo sia un processo politico e quindi come partito politico riteniamo di far vedere agli italiani che il partito sostiene il nostro segretario federale Matteo Salvini e soprattutto far capire come spesso la magistratura strumentalizzi alcuni episodi a fini esclusivamente politici.
The former interior minister has been charged with kidnapping for refusing to allow 147 migrants rescued by the Spanish NGO Open Arms in 2019 to disembark in Lampedusa. Prosecutors argue that under the SAR Convention, anyone found in distress at sea must be assisted and provided with a place of safety. They also claim that the minister made the decision for his political advantage.
Noi assolutamente consideriamo questa un'assoluta provocazione. Noi pensiamo esattamente che Matteo Salvini ha esercitato un potere da ministro degli interni, un potere politico, tra l'altro condiviso dalle altre parti politiche che erano al governo con lui. Quindi l'assistenza è stata data, i minori sono stati varcati, quindi si vuole fare un processo al partito.
Matteo Salvini says he doesn't regret his actions and that he did it to defend the country. If convicted, he could be barred from holding government office. But it could take time for that to come into effect, as the League leader can decide to appeal the judge's decision. Giorgia Orlandi for Euronews in Rome.
For a year, Serbian authorities have been systematically evacuating the areas around the northern border with Hungary, collecting migrants and transporting them to camps in the Serbian cities of Kikinda and Preševo. Hundreds of illegal immigrants used to live in the barns of the Karas farm along the border fence near the town of Horgos, leaving at night to get through the barbed wire fences. But today, discarded energy drink cans and animal remains are the only signs that this place was once full of life. The roof has collapsed, the nylon sheeting protecting the windows has been ripped off, and you almost can't see the buildings through the weeds. Some of the locals, like Marta, are happy about the authorities' action. She says the area has become much safer.
Azok a kommandós autók egy hónapig még aztán itt voltak a izébe, akit csak lehetett, mindenkit összeszedtek. Egész utcába se látott senkit, mert nem mertek a népek kijönni.
A magyar belügyminisztérium még manapság is azt közli, hogy naponta több százan ostromolják a déli határt, de közben itt a horgosiak azt állítják, hogy ők már nagyon régóta nem találkoztak idegenekkel, és teljesen helyreállt a rend. Sőt, azok a buszok is eltűntek, amelyekkel a bevándorlókat szállították el a környékről.
The change in Horgos is visible. The last time Euronews was there, almost everything was closed and people were hardly seen in public spaces. But now the shops are open and children are playing in the streets.
Member states seem to be further tightening their migration policies. The subject is high on the agenda of the European Council. In a letter to capitals, Ursula von der Leyen proposed to speed up returns and open detention centers in third countries. The Commission President is thus in line with the request of 15 member states to transfer asylum seekers to safe third countries. 17 countries also called for an accelerated expulsion of foreign nationals whose asylum application is rejected.
With the return hubs, there's a key question is whether the EU member states will find willing partners in order to establish those return hubs, and more than that, also to to figure out ways to get countries of origin and transit to comply in terms of readmission.
In France, the new interior minister, who has made immigration his priority, wants to regularize undocumented migrants, but in small numbers and gradually. In Poland, Donald Tusk is considering temporarily and partially suspending the right of asylum to combat illegal immigration. Russia and Belarus are accused of orchestrating the influx of migrants using the Polish border to destabilize the EU as a hybrid attack. Warsaw believes migrants are weaponized in this way. On the other hand, fundamental EU values are at stake.
But then when it comes to justice, home affairs, migration, this is extremely problematic. The right to asylum is a fundamental right that cannot be suspended even in times of politically declared crisis. It is protected under EU law, under international law, but also by the Polish constitution, which shows that this is not a migration issue alone, but it's a broader rule of law issue.
While Hungary or Italy have been marginalized in the past for their hardline migration policies, rest of the member states now also seem to be converging in this direction.
Frankfurt's book fair opened on Wednesday, and this year it is setting its eyes on young adults. With the growing use of social media, the book industry is hoping to attract young adults back to real books. Trends on social media have more and more influencers presenting books, a good sign according to the fair's director. The German fair is the biggest book fair in the world and will run until 20 October, expecting more than 200,000 visitors.